Hi, my name's Megan. My dad is a mover in the RAF and he's been working there for 25 years.
Hi, my name is Aimee. My dad is also a mover and he has been working in the RAF for about 23 years.
Thanks, girls. So the reason we're speaking to you today is to talk about reading in the widest sense, and then in particular about an initiative called Reading Force, which is in its second year at the moment. So my first question really is about how do you feel reading enriches or improves people's lives? And if you want to talk about personal experience, how has reading enriched your life?
I think reading is really good to broaden your mind as to things that surround us. For example, other countries, things that we don't exactly see in the small area that we live in now. And I just think it's a time for you to just focus on maybe like problems or situations or scenarios that you may encounter later on in life, or that you may be more interested in, because it could be anything, it could be any kind of novel that it's about. I just think it broadens your mind overall.
And what do you think, Aimee? How's reading enriched your life?
I would say it's kind of made a wider range of vocabulary in the way I talk and what I write and how I work at school. And
Because you were quite embarrassed earlier because you said that you were reading an autobiography, or was it a biography about Katie Price?
No, it's just books she just writes.
Oh, she's written as an author. And now some people are quite snobby about books, and they feel as though there are good, important books to read, and there are trashy books to read, if that's a fair way of putting it. Do you think that's a fair thing to say about books, or do you think there's something to be enjoyed in all kinds of literature?
I think there's something to be enjoyed in all kinds of literature. It depends what sort of book you enjoy, really.
Because Reading Force, as an initiative, have had to narrow down a choice of, I think it's 24 books to suit a variety of ages, and they've had to go through a process of picking books that they think will be universally enjoyed. So what do you think makes for a book that's going to be universal and that everybody of a wide range of interests and ages would enjoy? What makes a good book?
I think it's got to be in between a book that enlightens you, like gives you knowledge, and a book that is enjoyable. I don't think it should be one or the other. It should be somewhere in between, and that's what makes a good book that's easily enjoyable and like easy to obtain knowledge from.
Yeah, it's like it's a book you want to keep reading and you don't give up on because it's about that good.
And does it need to deal with big issues that are kind of philosophical or profound, or is there something that's quite enjoyable about celebrity biographies, for example? Does it have to deal with big issues, or can a novel or a piece of literature or a piece of writing be about more trivial things and still be important?
I mean, everyone has different hobbies, what they like to read, what they don't like to read, and what interests them and what don't. And I think that books with a lot of information overall, as much as people maybe our age don't show it, I think they more enjoy reading it more because they obtain more and they feel better after reading it. Whereas with celebrities, you're thinking, oh yeah, that's their life, not mine. How can I compare to that? But with books that are a little bit more with knowledge, you think, yeah, I've read that, that's really good, and I now know more about that situation.
Okay, so I've explained to you earlier a little bit about the principles that inform what Reading Force are trying to achieve. Do you feel as though there is a place for books and for novels in bringing people closer together, or is reading very much a personal thing? Or conversely, do you feel as though there is a major part that books can play in bringing groups of people together and sharing those experiences that you described in your earlier answers?
I think reading brings people together because, for example, me and my sister, we have quite similar book tastes, and say if she buys a book and she reads it, and then after she's finished it, I read it, and we kind of compare what our favourite scenes were, what our favourite parts of the book were, and we say what our favourite characters were and why. And it kind of just gives us a chance to talk more, because my sister goes to university now.
All right.
And when she comes home, every now and then we talk about the books that we've both read before, like whether it's in school or at home in our free time, and it kind of brings us together. It gives us something to talk about.
But Aimee, have you ever spoken about, do you ever have you ever had a conversation about something you've read with friends or family and felt as though you've benefited from talking about something you've read?
Yeah, I was reading Michael Phelps's autobiography because I'm a swimmer, and my mum was reading at the same time. So when I wasn't, she was, and she kept telling me to like take all the information in and see what he was doing and his life.
And some people would argue that it's not very cool at all to talk about books. Would you think is that the consensus amongst people your age? Do people talk about books, whether it's talking face to face or talking online in a virtual context? Do people talk about books?
Yeah, I think they do. Everyone has different interests, like I said before. But when it comes to finding a book that you enjoy reading and it's suited to the hobbies that you like and the things you like reading about, I think it does bring people closer together, and they do talk about it, as much as they may hate to admit it because they might think reading is uncool. But I really don't think it is. It's just a chance for everyone to come together. Yeah, they do talk about it.
Okay. So taking the idea of coming together, it's no secret that the motivation, or one of the motivations for this project, and the reason that we're so interested at Carterton Community College, is that we feel, Reading Force feel also, that literature, novels in particular, can play a role in the cohesion of the family unit, and in particular for those forces families who may certainly experience stresses and tensions that typical families who aren't part of the military have to endure. So do you think that sharing a book with mum or dad who's on active service somewhere, or even working locally with the RAF, do you think that sharing a novel could enrich the relationships you have at home?
Yeah, I think it does. It gives you and your parent, whether it's your mum or your dad in the RAF, it gives something to talk about, because sometimes when they come home from work, they're tired, they don't really want to talk much. But when you talk about books, it kind of gives them a reason to be interested in what you're saying. For example, if you say, "Oh yeah, how are you?" and then it's just your basic conversation, it gets boring and the same. Whereas if you have like a certain chapter in a book that you've both read and you talk about it, it kind of brings you together, makes them more involved, and it kind of attracts their attention.
Because some students and young people say that the older they get, the less easy it is to talk to their parents, and in particular if your parents' work is with the RAF and there are stresses and pressures because of that it becomes even more difficult to have a line of communication which is easy to maintain. Do you think Aimee, do you think a book or a novel is a good starting point for conversations that might otherwise be difficult to manufacture without having a starting point like a book or maybe a film or a TV programme?
I think if you've got something to talk about, as in a book or a TV programme or a film, your conversation could like roll on to something else, like something happened in the day or the other week. It would just keep rolling on conversations, and then you can come back to the book again and just carrying it on.
And have you two had experiences where dads had to be away from home for periods of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, there can be times when it's difficult to maintain contact. It might be sporadic or occasional that you get to have quality conversations. But then ironically, when you do have the conversations, you find you're at a loss of what to talk about sometimes. If you've got, as Reading Force propose, an online community and an online forum within which you can share your experiences of novels and literature and have something to talk about, do you think, honestly, that you would be able to make use of a resource like that, a place to meet online, whether it's with Dad or with other members of the Reading Force community? Do you think you'd ever see yourself contributing to a discussion forum or to a conversation online?
I think a discussion forum online would be very practical and helpful for people who are at home and both like parents who are away, because it gives something to talk about when you and your parent or relative of any kind that you're both online and you can both talk to each other. It gives you something to talk about, and you can also talk to people who who also have families in the RAF, where your parents aren't there. I think it gives you something to talk about, and you're not at loss thinking, well, I'm the only one, I have no one to talk to. But when there's other people online who can also talk to you, I think it's a really great thing to talk about.
Is it a taboo topic at school or out of school to talk about how it feels to be the daughter of someone in the RAF, or do you get to share the difficulties and the positive sides of being the daughter of someone in the RAF?
I think it's very rare for other children to talk to each other about being in the RAF. It's just not something that comes up in conversation. But I think in that reading forum online, it's a really good chance for kids to talk to each other about things.
So you might start off talking about the Hunger Games or about being Billy, the novels, but that might then actually lead to a conversation about what it's like to have to move house regularly, or what it's like to have to cope without mum or dad during the week or for months on end. So I can see that. Well, that's been a real eye-opener and really helpful insight, girls. Thanks for your comments.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.